In a perfect world, there would be no conflict or disagreement amongst us, but unfortunately, our world has not advanced enough to eliminate these problems. We, the people of the United States, are subject to conflict, which have different types of problem solving techniques that people rely on to conquer and overcome these issues, but none of them are completely foolproof. Every day, people are using these techniques to fight for what they believe in or battle against something that they think to be wrong. There are solutions which can cause more conflict, such as violence. But there are peaceful solutions such as rallying and civil disobedience. Civil disobedience can solve many issues without adding to it, like violence usually does. I think that if more people were to realize that nothing can be solved by violence and that a more peaceful way, such as civil disobedience, is in order to solve conflict, then the world would be a better place to coexist together. Civil disobedience can be the aspect that can move a country forward. Civil disobedience solves the situation with problems using peaceful means. Most people would argue that civil disobedience is wrong, backing up their statement with the fact that they are breaking the law. But if they use violence, it could also end up with people getting hurt or killed. Are they saying that is not breaking the law? Martin Luther King Jr. wrote his infamous I Have a Dream speech in 1963, which was a time of segregation and shaming if you stood up for beliefs that were considered to be wrong by society. His speech was almost completely based on the usage of civil disobedience. The goal of this speech was to get people to stand up for what they believe to be right, even if it does include breaking the law. His method of action was using powerful words, not powerful actions. Similar to Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech promoting standing up for your morals, Rosa Parks did this also. In 1955, Rosa Parks, a black woman, sat in a white seat on a segregated bus. This action was an unspeakable one, especially in a time period of segregation where you could be punished severely for doing a petty act, such as drinking from the same water fountain as someone of a different race. This was a very important event in history because although Rosa Parks thought at the time that she was doing what she wanted to do and standing up for herself and her beliefs, she sparked a fire in the hearts of societal members who also had the same morals as her. Mahatma Gandhi defended what he thought to be right and also had quite a big support, a country. He disliked the fact that the British rulers were controlling Indians from collecting and selling salt in India, which is a staple ingredient in their diet. So he staged a march in 1930. Him and his country defied the British government policy by making a campaign called Satyagraha, which literally means mass civil disobedience. Some people believe that more peaceful methods of action could be solutions to problems, but many people also believe that violence is a way to solve their predicament. Violence solves nothing. It creates more problems, if anything, because violence leads to injury and death, and that leads to people getting offended. Malcolm X also had a speech based on civil disobedience, but his opinions differed from Martin Luther King Jr.'s, saying that we need to take civil disobedience to a more extreme level. He took a more violent approach, saying that in order to get their points across, they need to use forceful actions instead of forceful words. In his speech, he states that one of the reasons that I am in no way reluctant or hesitant to do whatever is necessary to see that black people do something to protect themselves, I honestly believe that the day they do, many whites will have more respect for them. He believes that the blacks must protect themselves by any means necessary. The racialist never understands a peaceful language. The racialist never understands the nonviolent language. The racialist has spoken his type of language to us for over 400 years. He is saying in this quote that the racialists he and his supporters are fighting are violent people who can't speak the language of peace, so they should do something about it themselves. He also says that you live in a society supposedly and it doesn't enforce its own laws because the color of a man's skin happens to be wrong, and that those people are justified to resort by any means necessary to bring about justice where the government cannot. He is saying that the government can't protect them or provide them with justice, so they should do it themselves because no one else will. Violence is a method that I don't believe to be the correct method of handling a conflict within people. More people are bound to listen to peaceful speakers, not violent attackers, which is why I think civil disobedience can solve many things if used right. Civil disobedience could quite possibly lead to a revolution under the right circumstances. By this I mean a leader with a belief that is not widely spoken out for and enough supporters to back them up. In civil disobedience, Henry David Thoreau stated that the mass of men serve the state thus, not as mainly, but as machines with their bodies. This is saying that the government workers' minds are being numbed, therefore becoming machines. Those workers are basically being forced to speak the same words and believe the same morals. Henry David Thoreau also stated that, but even suppose blood should flow, is there not a sort of bloodshed when the conscience is wounded? Through this wound, a man's real manhood and immortality flow out, and he leads to an everlasting death. What he means by this is that the government is destroying the morals of their workers and the citizens. What do all these speakers and visionaries have in common? They are all fighting for what they believed in, using their own method of action, whether it be violence or civil disobedience. All it takes is one brave person to stand up. Most people don't because they think that their opinion doesn't matter. But what these people don't realize is that these speakers also thought the same thing, but look what they accomplished. They may be part of the minority, but if they take a stand, it can easily become the majority. People don't speak up for themselves and others and expect their voice to be heard. They wonder why they aren't getting any changes in the world, but how can that happen with no go-getters? This all could be solved by rising up for what you believe in a peaceful way, such as civil disobedience. I think that civil disobedience can possibly solve many of the world's issues if used in an appropriate manner instead of resorting to violence. Civil disobedience could resolve most of the issues presented by unhappy people. In order for the world to coexist peacefully, we must conquer these problems together, and I don't believe the way to do that is violence.